Morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Friday, the third day of November, year of our Lord 2017. Welcome to the John Moore Show. Prepper tip of the day. It's not too soon. It'll be spring before you know it. In about 5 months now, it'll be springtime, and it would be good to consider the following. And that's the plant called kudzu. It's Kilo Uniform Delta Zebra Uniform, kudzu. It's regarded as an invasive species. It's held in contempt by most people in agriculture. Roundup won't kill it. Burning it won't kill it. Now, here's the good part. The entire plant is edible by human beings. It's a starchy, nutritious plant. People can eat it. Animals can eat it. It will grow anywhere. A rocky hillside where almost nothing else will grow, kudzu will flourish. Now, you need to be cautious. If you're going to grow kudzu, if it gets away from you, you're going to have very angry neighbors, and it could and can get away from you. It grows like a vine, and it grows like gangbusters, on one hand. On the other, this is what's important. It could save a lot of lives. Seriously, kudzu could save a lot of lives in a long-term crisis. I'm not kidding. So it's something to be aware of. On Amazon.com, you can get books on the cultivation and preparation of kudzu for eating, and also you can get kudzu seeds. Right there at Amazon.com. That's your prepper tip of the day. We have a patient waiting in the green room, our friend Tom Berryhill. Tom is a gentleman who took the time, beginning more than half a century ago, to become a licensed ham radio operator. He went on to make his career in areas regarding both radio frequency engineering and electronics in general. And we're going to have a discussion like we do most Friday mornings about emergency communications. Good morning, Tom.
Morning, John. How are you today?
Really good. You need to get a bit closer to your microphone there, sir.
Is that better?
That's better. I was going to say maybe my engineer can turn up the volume, but I think you're okay now. Tom, we continue to see examples of where effective immediate communications could save lives. These examples pop up at least once a week somewhere on the planet where it might be a hurricane or an earthquake or some other event. And because people don't have effective immediate communications, they end up with serious injuries or death, don't they, sir?
That's correct, John. It's a lot easier to get the equipment before you need it, learn how to use it, get everything set up, than to wait until the disaster hits. Absolutely.
Well, obviously, clearly, once the disaster is in your face, the odds of getting your hands on the equipment and knowing how to use it are almost zero. Locally here, we've got our Radio Shack ready here, Tom, for Osage Township. We've got our FM transmitter purchased along with the coax, the antenna, the power supply, CB radio with power supply and antenna and coax ready to go. I was talking to our 911 emergency coordinator for Crawford County 2 days ago, and we do have a frequency assigned to us that we can talk to CENTCOM once everything's set up, and we have a radio to do that with. Every community could be doing what we're doing here in Osage Township, couldn't they, Tom?
Well, they could, but I think
they're going to
have to. They won't, and you're going to have to look pretty hard to find very many that are pursuing that. I think you've done a wise thing there, John, in your area.
Well, thank you, sir. And what we've done in Osage Township, where I live, is sparsely populated. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we're looking at more than 100 square miles that may have 2,000 people in it, if that, and that's pretty optimistic. Very sparsely populated, a lot of national forests, cattle ranches, and forests, both privately owned as well as the national forest. despite our remoteness, despite our low population density, we've done something that most cities haven't done, let alone small towns, which almost no small towns have done. But there's not a lot of expense. I just looked up the price of the FM transmitter yesterday on Amazon. Tom, it was $325, which included everything you need except the microphone, which a good quality microphone could be had for around $50 or so from Radio Shack. And that's it. That's not a lot of money, less than $400, shipping included. So money is not the reason. The reason is people either don't know or don't care. So the ones that don't know, obviously, there's a saying I like, Tom, a quotation from a book that I enjoy, and the quotation is the following. Here it is. Those who are unaware of being unaware.
Well, I agree with that, yes.
The purpose of our conversation is twofold, Tom. It's to inform people of what can be done and motivate them to move forward and do it. Right, sir?
That's correct. And, John,
Yes.
it's easier than ever before with the equipment availability. I mean, the different ham radio stores, they have websites. Equipment can be shipped out the same day you pay for it. eBay, there's quite a selection of used equipment as well as new equipment with worldwide sources. Who knows how long those websites and services companies would be available in the event of an all-out disaster that could be even worldwide in some cases. Now is the time to do it, not wait until you think something's going to happen.
Exactly. Absolutely true. Well, if a person wants to get started, all it takes is some motivation, and I would say 3 or 4 dedicated individuals that are motivated and want to get something going in their community. Now, the United States is divided into political subdivisions. We have the United States of America, then we have the 50 states. The 50 states all have counties. There's, I believe, 3,100 plus counties in the United States. And the counties all have townships. And that's how the United States of America is except for Louisiana. They still got all that fringe stuff going on down there with parishes, but a parish and a county are basically the same thing. So at each level, there can and should be emergency communications, right, Tom?
That's correct. And in the areas where we are, John, out here in the Ozarks, it is sparsely populated. There are population centers, but they're not anywhere near as large as the big cities or metropolitan areas. So it's quite easy to get some pretty wide radio coverage by setting up relatively modest systems. You don't need to spend many thousands of dollars and erect huge antenna arrays or anything like that. It's quite simple to.
Not at all. No.
Yeah, it's very simple.
Yeah. Now these 25-watt FM transmitters, they will cover 100 square miles easy. Now that may sound like a lot, a big area, but that's only 5 miles to the 4 compass points. 5 miles east, west, north, and south. That's 100 square miles, isn't it, Tom?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And they'll easily do that. With maybe
Easily.
an antenna 25 or 30 feet off the ground is all you need.
Right. Well, our first install, we have our primary location is the fire department headquarters there in Viburnum, Missouri. I climbed up the tower out back there. I got the antenna about 10 feet above the roof line, and we cover the entire city plus 5 miles north, 5 miles south. East, we don't know because, east to about 5 miles also, and west past the city limits. We haven't really done much testing going west. And that's just a $350 FM transmitter, which included everything except the microphone, which I donated the microphone from my personal collection. The FM transmitter is kept inside one of my Faraday bags that I sell on my website. That in turn is kept inside a Faraday box, which is a military surplus steel box with a cardboard lining. And that's kept inside a secure room, inside a secure building. Twice a year, we take the equipment out. Our most recent test was a week ago this past Monday. We take the equipment out, hook it all up, which takes every bit of 10 minutes. And we do a half-hour test to make sure that people all over the area can hear it. This last test, I had one of the Viburnum police officers there with me and his wife to get another person trained up to run this equipment. I want as many people as possible trained up to know where the equipment is, how to get it out, set it up, and make use of it. In addition, Tom, we placed an order with a company that makes return address labels, like you put on your envelopes when you pay your bills every month. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, is that the type that stamps it right in the envelope?
No, this is stickers.
Oh, okay.
These are stickers, rolls of stickers, and we got the roll of stickers printed up that says Viburnum Emergency Radio, then the frequency, and then emergency broadcast on the hour. And we distribute those around the community so people can put them on their radios and their pickup trucks, wherever they are, because we transmit on a commercial FM frequency, which you can do during an emergency. The FCC allows you to do something that's illegal otherwise when life and property is at risk. In this case, transmit on a commercial FM frequency for the duration of the emergency, and only during the duration of the emergency, no other time except for our semi-annual radio tests that we do for half an hour to make sure everything works. Almost no communities have done this, Tom. Viburnum, Missouri is a community of 650 people. What we've put together there, most cities haven't done, let alone small towns. It is extraordinary. It's special, but it's not that difficult to do or expensive, is it, Tom?
No, it really isn't. You just said the low price, the availability is around $300 or so, maybe a little bit more. The hard part is getting the location to put it and an antenna tall enough, or a tower or support mast tall enough to hold that antenna. At least, I'd say at least 25 feet off the ground to cover a community. Well,
it helps when you got the support of the mayor, the chief of police, and the fire chief. That helps a lot. So,
yes, and in your case, John, I saw that building there where you have that equipment set up, and I believe there was a tower there, if I remember right. So that was a good location. And then your location is up very high anyway. That town is in a very high location. So I would think you would easily cover into some of the surrounding hills and valleys.
We do. It's our area down here is a radio frequency engineering nightmare. Even today, in 2017, when I was talking to the sheriff the other day and the CENTCOM people, there were still comments about the dead spots, despite having the highest quality equipment professionally installed at very high, above ground, 100 feet above the ground. There's still dead spots that can be corrected, but at even more expense. And that's just the nature of the beast, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's the problem, and it's in the deep valleys where they're going to lose a signal. See, John, when they operate on the VHF frequencies, I know in your area it's all 155 megahertz, somewhere in that range, and that covers quite well from mountain to mountain. But then you get down into some deep valleys, or if you have a sheer drop-off, that goes down to a river valley, you're going to have a dead spot down there unless they put another repeater in that area. And I know the police use a lot of mobile repeaters, so they have a HT or a portable radio with them, but it transmits back to their car, and then that is connected in with the main radio in the car, so they'll have, it's almost like having a 100-watt radio in the palm of your hand. That's how they get around a lot of that, but still, these dead spots, they're all over the place. The county I'm in, they have two repeaters, one on the north side It's a narrow county and very long, and they have, so at the north end they have a repeater, and at the south end they have one.
Right. Well, in Crawford County, they have the main one in the middle of the county, another one south, and I believe there's a third one that's being planned for the north end of the county as well. It's a matter of desire and motivation more than anything else. The money is insignificant. If your local preparedness group can't handle $400, I'd say you need to have another bake sale. Moving forward is something I want to encourage people to do. These things don't just pop out of the ground by themselves. It takes months of planning to make something like what we're talking about to happen, because you have to deal with various elected and appointed officials who won't do anything unless they know it's the right thing to do for the right reasons, and that might take some convincing. So if you decide on Friday the 3rd day of November 2017 you're going to install a FM transmitter in your community, making use of public facilities as opposed to private, you do well to have your install done by the end of January or even February, right, Tom?
Well, I think that'd be a pretty quick response. Usually
that'd be optimistic. Yeah, it'd be optimistic. Now, if you do it on private property with private funding, then you don't need permission. You just go ahead and do it. Keeping in mind that the purpose is to have an FM transmitter that the mayor, chief of police, the fire chief, maybe other public officials could make use of for emergency broadcast during whatever crisis might be. It might be an ice storm, a flood, a tornado, hurricane, earthquake, whatever it might be. That's the purpose of these FM transmitters in the first place, is to give the authorities a way to communicate with their community. The alternative being a 4-by-8 foot sheet of white plywood in front of City Hall to put notes on, or have the police drive up and down the streets with their public address system and microphone in a Crown Victorian. And that's basically it, isn't it, Tom?
That's about it, yes.
Okay, I'm wondering where our break is. Typically, we've had a break by now.
I hear the music, John. It's coming in.
You hear music? I'm not hearing anything. We have a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. We are back, listen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 3rd day of November. Tom, we got a caller on hold here. We got Dan in Hawaii, where it's still dark. It's still dark there in Hawaii, isn't it, Dan?
It is, John. Thank you. So I'm on the Big Island.
Okay.
I'm up at 1,000 feet. There's 900 acres here, about 50 people. that 25 watt sounds good. I'm wondering what's a good brand to purchase on that.
Well, I don't have the brand here in front of me, but Amazon.com, you can find 25 watt FM transmitters for sale, and if it's on Amazon, it's not going to be junk. Any follow up there, Tom?
Well, I would agree with that, John. These things all come out of China. They probably all come out of the same plant, and they're maybe private labeled for various resellers. So I think you just find one that looks good, the price is right, and sometimes the cheapest price isn't always the best deal. But look at what they offer with it. Many of them come with the antenna, everything, and the main thing is a good power supply. Don't go too cheap on the power supply. Get one that's readily able to supply the full current. Some of those units will take quite a bit of amperage to run, so I always say double up on the power supply.
Okay, here's the brand that we use. It's CZE, is Charlie Zebra Echo. Charlie Zebra Echo. Actually, that's the model. The brand is CZH, Charlie Zebra Hotel. And the model we got is CZE-251. That's Charlie Zebra Echo Tango 251.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, and it's on Amazon.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Tom.
Dan. Yeah, it's a complete kit. It's a complete kit. Everything but the microphone.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
John, as high up as Dan said he's located, I think he's going to be surprised how far that thing goes. It's going to be very impressive.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and send that to Tim Spencer and have it listed under my John Survival and Tactical Gear. And that should be available, hopefully by the end of the day, under John's Survival and Tactical Gear.
John, there's quite a few other uses for those FM transmitters. If there's any kind of political event you want to get the word out, many years ago we set up a small transmitter. We were battling with the local school district that was just constantly trying to get the taxes increased. And until the one fellow died, you remember Joe that passed on, the old fellow, he did the announcements and all that and made the tape, and we ran the thing, and then we had a guy in a clown suit that walked around with a sandwich board telling everybody to tune into an important message, and then we had everything set up, and he walked around on the sidewalk right at one of the busiest intersections in the area in rush hour traffic that one morning, and I'm telling you, it was the most effective thing you could have ever done. They never got a tax increase in that school district until I moved away, and that the gentleman that made the broadcast tapes and all that, he passed on, and then they were able to get their increases. But we were able to hold them at bay. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a farewell get together for him. I recall at his home, which was just a week or two before he'd passed on. Yeah, well, there's some caveats. If you're going to broadcast on a commercial FM frequency without a license, you're in. I think they only allow a quarter watt. A quarter watt.
No, actually, John, it's microvolts per meter. They allow a certain radiation voltage. You have to measure the actual voltage of the radiated signal. And it's so many microvolts per meter. So it's pretty technical and hard to measure. It's not based on wattage at all.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good to know and difficult to understand. We got a bottom of the hour break. Call number is 800-313-9443. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our energy cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the energy cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday. It is Friday, the 3rd day of November. My website is thelibertyman.com. That is thelibertyman.com. I'm beginning to learn that people are using these handheld devices more and more, which frequently don't have the entire home page up on my website. Leon Green sent me a note the other day saying he didn't see the domes for sale on my website. They're right there on the left side, right below Professor McCanney's water filters. And I sent him a note back, and my belief is he's probably using one of these handheld devices with those little tiny little screens that people use all the time. I don't. So I think you'd be better off looking on my website with a laptop or a PC as opposed to these handheld devices. Also at my website, of course, are energy cleaners for sale. And my wife, Dr. Moore, mentioned to me last night that she's contacting a woman we know out in Colorado, encouraging her to listen to yesterday's show, first hour, Steve Whitman's testimony. You want to understand the energy cleaner, ladies and gentlemen. You listened to Steve Whitman yesterday, the first hour. That would be Thursday, the 3rd day of November. It's my oversight to not have Steve on more frequently. It's been a year plus since I've had Steve on, and we always have new listeners. I need to have Steve on about twice a year to tell his story. It's a remarkable edge-of-the-seat story of his recovery from his back injury with the energy cleaner, his having the strength and agility to jump off that tractor after being shot 3 times, his ability to recover quickly, and the added addition, the icing on the cake, his wife's recovery from lupus, all due to the energy cleaner. Seriously, listen to the archive. Yesterday's show, Thursday, the 2nd day of November, first hour, and you will be educated, and you will be at the edge of your seat listening to Steve tell his story. The energy cleaner is for sale at my website. A healing device, not a Rife machine, not a TENS unit. It's entirely different technology. The signal goes to every cell in your body, flushing out toxins, bringing fresh nutrition. Study up on it. Study up on the mattress pads I've got to go with the energy cleaner also. Only $285 shipping included for the energy cleaner. I do take PayPal. It's the most secure way to make any payment online, MasterCard, Visa. You can send me checks. I take checks. My address is at my website. And, yes, I do offer for me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee on the energy cleaner. I'm making it as easy for you as possible. Toll-free order line. Don't try to call me. Order line only. 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. I know, Tom, you were listening yesterday yourself, and you've heard Steve's story before, but it's just as captivating when told a second time, isn't it, sir?
Yeah, it really is, John. It was quite interesting, and that's why I didn't call in. There was not much I could add to it except getting away. I did try to call in at first, and Dan.
I think all the lines went with three of us on there.
I think so, and I couldn't get through. So that's when I actually started listening, and then I had to play the archive to hear the whole thing. But it was very good, and there was a few things that I learned about Steve's situation that I wasn't aware of, and that's where he said it healed too fast. The gunshot wounds healed too fast, and the one burst open. One of the wounds burst open to let some of the fluids drain out. So, yeah. One thing I would like to ask Steve sometime is did these wounds heal up with no scarring? Because we've seen that so many times. Surgical incisions, injuries, they heal up and there's no scar.
Well, there was the torso wounds and, of course, the index finger of the right hand, which was almost amputated. I would expect there'd be scarring there. I'd be shocked if there wasn't. But the torso wounds probably had reduced scarring as opposed to normal scarring from that type of injury. It would be my expectation. And Steve and I haven't talked about that. That's a great question. Getting back to the topic of the day, which is emergency communications. For an outsider looking in, it appears to be so complex, so technical, so hard to learn, doesn't it, Tom?
That's true, John, and let's talk about getting started and getting involved in ham radio. One of the best ways to start is go to the American Radio Relay League, and that is ARRL.org. And they will have all kinds of information on their website, information readily available to point you in the right direction to find additional information, training guides, everything you'll need to learn the basics to get your first ham radio license, which will get you on the air with basic equipment where you can talk around the community, and then you can use that as almost like an apprenticeship to learn more as you go, and then you'll be able to step up to the next license grade, and that will put you on the shortwave bands, the HF bands, and you're able to talk worldwide at that point. It's easier than ever before. Reason being, in the old days, you had to know everything about that equipment, because if you made one misadjustment to a transmitter, you could easily interfere with military or maritime radio traffic, which was heavily used back in the old days. Not so much anymore. A lot of that's been offloaded to satellites. So that eases those restrictions. And it's the equipment is basically plug and play nowadays. You don't have to worry about tuning the transmitter. You just dial in the frequency you want to be on and make a few simple adjustments to the microphone level and things like that. And you start communicating. It's pretty simple. So they've been able to reduce the things that you have to learn and make it a lot simpler to get started. So, like I said, it's easier than ever before. There's online study guides, and they even publish the test questions and the question and answers.
And the answers. Questions
and
answers.
I think there's four or five different question answer pools that they use, and the tests are administered by ham radio clubs. They have volunteer examiners that give the test, and then they send the information into the FCC, and a call sign is issued. And once that call sign is issued, you're on the air. So, and many of these radio clubs will then also help you to. It's kind of a shaky thing the first time you get on there. You want to make sure you're doing it right and things like that. So they'll have a get together and maybe even on the air, and they'll talk to each other to get everybody kind of used to how it works and the procedures that are used. And in a very short period of time, usually the same day or maybe within a few days, you're pretty comfortable with it, and you're talking to a lot of people and meeting new people, and then you can get together and meet these people personally and really develop some interesting friendships and learn from each other. It's really a lot of fun, John. Like you said, I've been doing it over 50 years.
Exactly. It is fun. It's a hobby It can be a family hobby. We routinely have 8 and 10-year-old boys and girls getting their ham radio lessons, don't we?
Oh yeah, all the time. In fact, I was really happy to see that when we did our last presentation to your group, there were some young people there, and that is great. You know, John, I have to say that if a family, especially like homeschoolers or even children that are attending public and private schools, it doesn't matter, but homeschooling is an excellent use for ham radio. It can be a training exercise for these young people, and they can learn electronics and communications. You know, the ham radio bands allow you to experiment with equipment that you construct yourself from scrap parts. You don't have to buy it and have it type accepted like any other equipment. The police department can't build their own radio equipment and put it on the air. That's prohibited. It has to be type accepted by the Federal Communications Commission. So there's all kinds of testing and things. Well, the ham operators can just design it, build it themselves, put it on the air, see how it works, modify it. It's allowed and encouraged because that's how we develop future engineers and technicians that can maintain these systems, and they know everything about it. It's a fantastic way to get an education in electronics. John, it's the only electronics education I have. I never really took a formal course. Well, except in high school, we had to take an electrical class. I got an F and an incomplete. And the teacher, John, the teacher chewed me out in front of the whole class, and then most of the guys in this electrical class started snickering and laughing, and the teacher blew a stack. He just almost blew a gasket, and he left the room. And the reason everybody was laughing is because
they knew how talented you were, didn't they?
No, well, kind of, but John, in those days, I was so desperate for money so I could go buy parts to build the transmitters and the equipment that I needed for my ham radio experiments that I basically was contracting with some of the guys in that class. They were so busy smoking joints and going out and drinking beer and goofing off and they wanted a good grade so they didn't get in trouble with their parents. I was contracting in those early days as a teenager, and they paid me to we had to build a little electric motor. And that teacher actually started pointing out some of these motors that these different guys made. And he said, look how these things are beautiful. They're a work of art. And they were getting A pluses and everything. And that's why everybody was laughing, because I built all those motors. The ones that got the A's and A pluses were motors built by me. They paid me to do it, and we just shut up. I took the heat. And I got the F and the incomplete because I never even built my motor. I was too busy building everybody else's. And it's a kind of a funny story, but I will tell you that the only formal training I've ever had was ham radio and experimenting on my own time. And, of course, that led to a lifelong interest in electronics and business activities, several different businesses, and of course, the energy cleaner, it was designed by me, and I wrote the software and did the whole thing, and learned it all really in my early days from dealing with and messing around with ham radio stuff. So if a family will allow their children, even start at 5 years old, let them play around with an old junk fax machine or something. Let the kids take it apart, see what's inside, learn about what these chips are and the wires and all that. That will spark an interest, and at a young age like that, boy, they soak it in fast, John.
Oh yeah.
Next thing you know, they're out there doing their own thing, and by the time they're a young adult, they're off and running, and there's no stopping them.
Exactly. Well, I had a similar situation, Tom. My wife asked me the other day, how did I learn to work on cars? And I said, well, my grandfather bought me a set of tools, and I bought a shop manual, and I taught myself. And I rewired the car with all the electrical system, redid the brakes, rebuilt the carburetors, and a number of other things. But it was all self-taught. My father couldn't change a spark plug if his life depended on it. I had to teach myself. But it's become, and that's not for people my age. That was more the rule than the exception. I don't believe there's that many men under age 40 in the United States today who could change a spark plug. What do you think?
Oh, no. And John, in some of these cars, you can't even hardly change the plugs. Our friend Hank, he came to my office once, and he had just bought this very expensive Mercedes. He's pretty wealthy, and he purchased this Mercedes, and he was real proud of it. And we took a ride. It was this convertible, 2-seat convertible, and it was quite a car. And then now this guy's very skilled with electronics. He's been a ham radio operator since the 50s. But he could not change the spark plugs. He wanted to change the plugs in his car. He bought it used, and it was time for a plug change. He told me they had to take the front end off the car, and it was going to cost $5,000 to have the spark plugs changed. So he sold the car. So that's enough of that. But getting back to just basic skills, yes, you're absolutely correct. Even people in their 40s, they don't know how to do it. But John, back in the old days, when we were younger, everybody and their brother was under the hood of a car. In fact, I always remembered my wife saying that when she was a teenager, we always knew where all the guys were. We'd just go over to their house, and they'd be under the hood of the car. We'd keep track of her boyfriends that way. They could always find them. Right. They were under the car, leaning in the engine compartment, and they were a lot easier to work on in those days too. But John, I know people today, men that are educated people. They cannot change a battery in a car. That's about the simplest thing you could do. Put a new battery in a car. They can't do it.
That's one thing that hasn't changed is the simplicity of changing an automobile battery. Yes, absolutely.
Well, I can tell you a funny story. A friend of mine, and he has advanced degrees. He's a genius in his area of expertise, and he was going to save a few dollars and change. I'm laughing because I can still see like it happened yesterday, and he's going to change his battery, John, and I said, remove the negative terminal first. Well, he started on the positive terminal, and that wrench went over and touched the frame of the car, and the whole wrench just exploded.
Oh, boy.
And burned his hand. Oh, yeah. He there's no practical skills anymore. Everybody pushes paperwork around and pushes buttons on computers, but very few people can turn a screwdriver or operate a wrench. It's amazing. It really is.
Well,
it's sad.
It is. And that's one of the things, going back to ham radio. Youngsters frequently like to do adult things. It gives them a sense of responsibility. They feel that they're getting more mature, and studying for and getting their ham radio license is a genuinely adult thing to do. It's not make-believe or pretend. A lot of children's games are pretending to do things adults do. But in this case, it's real. It's not make-believe. So the child is actually doing an adult activity at the same level an adult is, and that's very good for children to do those kind of things. We got a break. To call numbers 800-313-9443. All right, we are back, ladies and we're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 3rd day of November. Tom, we educate, we inform, we encourage, we do everything we can, because I know you're a mature man who's lived a lot of life on one hand. On the other, you've never seen the consequences of intentional violent death up close and personal like I have. And I have. It's part of my persona. And it's for most Americans, war is an hour and a half in a dark air-conditioned room with a bag of popcorn. For me, war is something that is part of who I am. And I know that things can change very quickly. I know that the federal government of the United States could not find a Superdome for a week. And this is the same government that people think is going to come to help them. I can't count on it. Can you, Tom?
Yeah, John. Well, you've seen a lot over there in Vietnam. The closest I got to that was a draft car, but they never called me. I'll tell a quick funny story. Well, not too funny, what happened, but I think I told you about this once. I was with my younger brother, and we were in downtown St. Louis and on Lindell Boulevard. This was in about 1976. And I had a Motorola HT220 HT. This is the same exact radio the St. Louis Police Department used, and I had it in my back blue jeans pocket. We were in a restaurant, like a dime store that had a lunch counter, and right. Eating, and then there was all kinds of commotion and people yelling and screaming. We heard the gunshots, and so everybody's running out of the building, and we went out. Police were all around. They had the area blocked off and getting people out of the way, and we're standing. Here's a guy laying there shot, blood all over the place, and they didn't tell us to leave. The cops saw that walkie-talkie, and I pulled it out of my pocket and I had it in my hand because we were going to leave, and one of the cops came over, and they thought we were one of them. And right. The cops said, you working today? And I just shrugged my shoulders and says, you know how, I didn't say yes or no. I just said, you know how it goes. He goes, yeah, tell me about it. So we just stood there and watched the whole, we're 5 feet away from the whole thing, and they're keeping everybody back, and it was kind of funny. So sometimes I remember what my brother said. He says, I've got to get one of those walkie-talkies. So right. It was kind of fun. John, you can, the people can learn in about 10 hours of study what they need to know to get a ham radio license. There's online study guides, and from what I've read with the test nowadays, it takes about 10 hours of study. And then, as you say, the young people want to do an adult activity. Well, they'll be on a level playing field with, if somebody 80 years old passes that test and a young person 8 years old passes that test, they are now on the same playing field. And
exactly.
They can both advance at their own speed. They can use it for training and education and have a lot of fun. So it's not hard to do. It's relatively simple. And find a ham radio club in your local area. Go online and search for ham radio club in your county or your town or city, and see what you can find, and they'll be more than happy to help you.
Right. Well, we're starting a new ham radio club here in a few months, and you'll be part of that, Tom, to get us going. Thank you, Tom. We'll be talking privately soon. Appreciate you being with us.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Top of the hour break. We'll be back with Dr. Myers. Stay tuned. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 3rd day of November. Proper tip of the day, I want to encourage everybody to consider spring planting of kudzu. It's an invasive species. It's kudzu, Kilo Uniform Delta Zebra Uniform Kudzu. You get down south, places like Georgia, you'll see you could drive for miles at 70 miles an hour and see entire hillsides just covered mile after mile with kudzu. It's an invasive species. It's a vine. Roundup won't kill it. Fire won't kill it. That's the bad part. The good part, the entire plant is edible by human beings. It is. Restaurants, I just got a note from my engineer earlier this morning. There's a restaurant in Austin, Texas that serves kudzu soup. The entire plant is edible. It's a starchy, nutritious food. It will grow anywhere. Rocky hillsides where nothing else of any consequence will grow, certainly nothing you can eat, will grow. Kudzu will grow. You can get seeds and get books on the cultivation and preparation of kudzu for eating at Amazon.com. I think that under John Survival and Tactical Gear, I may have some listed there. I'm not positive. It's been a while since I looked at that. Regardless, be cautious. if you do decide to plant kudzu and it gets away from you and gets in your neighbor's property, you're going to have a very angry neighbor, because it is, most people don't like it, although some people find it attractive. It's regarded as a nuisance plant by most people most of the time. Point being, it could save a lot of lives. In a long-term severe crisis, kudzu could save a lot of lives. That's why that is your prepper tip of the day. We were hoping that Dr. Phil Myers would call in. Apparently he has not yet. When he does, we will have him on and we'll talk about health-related matters. So, yes. Let's go to my website. My website is thelibertyman.com. Very top, we got a banner. This is written by a warning written by my friend Professor McKinney. Is La Palma about to fall into the sea? La Palma is over there in the Canary Islands, just off the west coast of Africa. It's a Spanish territory, popular vacation spot. I recall when I was in elementary school, one of my neighbors' families, they went to the Canary Islands for vacation one year. Beautiful place. Also, as far as North America is concerned, a very dangerous place. In the past, earthquakes have caused landslides of rock and dirt into the Atlantic Ocean. Now we're talking thousands of tons of rock and dirt that cause a tidal wave, what many people now call a tsunami, that took out the east coast of North America, Canada, and the United States. Just wiped it out. That's what's happened in the past. Now, Professor McKinney says the same tidal wave, tsunami, would also have damage to Portugal, France, the British Isles, Iceland, Greenland, and so forth. This would be quite an event. Now, this wave, this tidal wave / tsunami, would move across the Atlantic Ocean at the speed of sound, taking no more than 8 hours to make that trip across the Atlantic Ocean. That's not much warning. That's no warning at all, considering we've got just in that eastern seaboard of the United States about 80 million people, plus all the folks in Canada on their eastern seaboard. Obviously, clearly, even with 8 hours warning, 80 million people are not going to evacuate. That's simply not going to happen. So you need to be aware of this. I am aware of men who have self-evacuated already from the East Coast because of their knowledge. They work for the Department of Defense. What you do is up to you. That's your decision. It is your decision. The reason and you need to read the warning. When I was talking to Professor McKinney about this, I said, Jim, you need to check this out. He wasn't aware of it. So he did. What he found is what I found, is that the earthquakes happening there in the magnitude and number have never happened before in the magnitude and number that they're happening now since they've got records. It's a scary thing. It really is a scary thing. The tidal wave would literally wash over Florida. Literally wash over the entire state of Florida. Damage on the east coast of the United States would be up to the Blue Ridge Parkway and so forth. The Blue Ridge Parkway is a scenic highway that runs north-south on the edge of the Appalachian Mountains there. Popular too, especially this time of year, very popular tourist attraction. People like to make that drive and see all the different beautiful colors of the leaves of the trees. 100 miles from the Atlantic Ocean, by the way. Sometimes a little closer, sometimes a little farther, but typically 100 miles from the ocean. That's where 80 million people live. Moving down from there, we got just to the right of me in my tiger stripes here on the running board of a deuce and a half truck. We've got field training exercise, USS Liberty, December 31st, 2018. You want a date? You got a date. 14 months from now. Almost to the day. 14 months. Beginning a couple of years ago, when people ask this question, John, when's it going to happen? It could be any number of things. John, when's it going to happen? I started saying 3 p.m. tomorrow. I've come to understand the people that ask that question, almost without exception, are the ones who aren't prepared to deal with whatever might be coming at us. I say almost without exception because that's an accurate statement. So I came up with this little program, giving a specific date, and you get your choice to pick one or more of the following events to get ready for. Number 1, economic collapse leading civil disorder. Number 2, World War III. Number 3, rapid onset violent earth changes. 4, widespread terrorist attacks. And number 5, natural or man-made EMP. Now, natural EMP, of course, is charged particles. It's called a coronal mass ejection, charged particles coming at us from our sun. That's what natural EMP means. EMP is electromagnetic pulse. I would say 5% or less of the adults in this country have a comprehensive understanding of what EMP is, what it can do, what it can't do. And I think that's a pretty accurate statement. If you're part of that 95%, you need to get up to speed. You really need to. Yeah, my website is a free download. Let's scroll down here. Here it is. You have to go down a little bit farther on the right side. EMP Commission Executive Report 2008. This is the report from the executive report is condensed. It's only 300-something pages. The report prepared by the scientists and engineers appointed by the federal government to determine and report on what EMP can do and what it cannot do. Keep in mind when you read it the following. When it came to testing cars and trucks, they were on a tight budget and they were not allowed to run a full-strength pulse against modern cars and trucks. They ran a reduced pulse. That's not in the report, what they did and how they did it, or why they did it. They ran a reduced size pulse, which caused some minor damage, things like the electric motors for the windows and those kind of ancillary things that don't make the car run one way or the other. When Dr. Pryor was a guest on my show, he did mention that specifically. My belief is that modern cars and trucks will be either severely damaged or completely wiped out in terms of running without replacement components, which these days means computers. These cars, almost all these modern computers, almost all these modern automobiles and trucks, I should say, have computers built into them, and other electronics as well. Even the transmissions of these modern cars have electronics built into them, if you can believe that. I was shocked when I first heard that a number of years ago. That's the way it is. Having an automobile or a truck that runs after an EMP could seriously be a matter of life and death. Having one of the very few cars or trucks that runs is going to make you a target. People will attempt to steal that from you, possibly even murder you, to get their hands on an operating motor vehicle. That's how serious it would be. Long term, the petroleum refineries, oil refineries, will be out of business. So whatever fuel you've got is what you got. And granted, if you got a 1972 or earlier, 1972 was the last model year for American cars and trucks that did not have electronic ignition. They had points condenser ignition. So if you've got an older vehicle, car or truck or even motorcycle, 1972 or earlier, whatever fuel you've got is what you got, keeping in mind that all the cars and trucks that don't run will have fuel in them that you could salvage and make use of. It's not going to be of any use to the person who owns that car or truck, is it? Once the fuel's gone, it's gone. You're not going to set up a portable refinery in your backyard. However, you could set up a alcohol production system, a still, as we call them, to make your own alcohol. There's a number of ways to do that. This is something that mankind has been doing for millennium, is making their own alcohol. And these older cars and trucks especially will run on homemade alcohol. It burns really clean, by the way. The U.S. government, in their own studies, they say that 12 months after a nationwide power grid down situation, 9 out of 10 Americans will be dead. That's worse than nuclear war. Seriously. Nuclear war would be pretty limited because the enemy would want to have intact agricultural real estate to take over, intact infrastructure to take over, the highways, the railroads, the locks and dams, the airports, all those things. They don't want to destroy. They want to destroy no more than absolutely possible, necessary, so they can take over our country and make use of existing infrastructure. With EMP, they have all that. All the existing infrastructure is damaged with replaceable electronics being damaged, but otherwise, the road, the highways, bridges, dams, railroads, locks and dams, airports are all ready to use once the electronics are repaired, assuming there are electronics in whatever I just mentioned. The perfect weapon doesn't damage the major parts of the infrastructure that's expensive and difficult and takes a lot of time to replace, while it kills off all the Americans that they don't want here anyway. Sounds like a real win-win situation for our enemies, doesn't it? What's going to happen tomorrow? Antifa is planning protests in about a dozen American cities. Unless Antifa has help from Black Lives Matter, MS-13, communists. Of course, the Antifa is communist also. I believe it'll be a big zero, big nothing. That's my belief, based on what I've seen. Antifa is not big enough or powerful enough to do very much by themselves. If they combine forces with Black Lives Matter, communists, MS-13, the Muslims, then absolutely, they could cause a lot of serious problems. No doubt whatsoever. Of course they could cause a lot of serious problems. My advice is to stay away from large gatherings tomorrow. If you don't need to be in a big city, don't be there. Be sure you got a bug-out plan if that becomes necessary. I don't know how far these people will go or what their resources are. I really don't. I'm concerned enough to issue this warning, however, to have a plan A and a plan B. If you live in one of the cities where these demonstrations are planned, you need to be extra cautious. In fact, you might consider packing up the family heirlooms and just leaving for the weekend. When I say family heirlooms, that would be photographs that can't be replaced, important documents that can't be replaced, birth certificates, insurance papers, mortgage papers, whatever it might be. All those things. Automobile titles. And just take a 2-day vacation. Take off tonight and come back Sunday. You can always get another house, but you only get one life. If your home is in a place in close proximity to where these protests are taking place, you may be wise to just jump ship and return when the demonstrations are over. That could be a fun weekend. Just get off and do something. Take those irreplaceable things with you. Family photographs and important documents. Or you might decide to stay there and defend your premises. Depending on who you are, what your resources are, the situation at hand, that might be an option for you also. A friend of mine I've known since, about 1994, I guess. He lives in Ferguson with his family. He evacuated his family and stayed to guard the family home that was the main family asset. Another family I know, the husband and the almost adult teenage son, they stayed to defend their home in Ferguson while the rest of the family evacuated to their country home in the Ozarks. And so forth. Here's our break. Call numbers 800-313-9443. We'll be right back. J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. We are back, listen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 3rd day of November. I was just, during the break, I was looking at an interesting article, totally off topic. Apparently the current land speed record is 2 miles faster than the speed of sound. I'm shocked. Speed of sound is 761 miles per hour at sea level. The current land speed record is 763 miles an hour. And of course there's people that want to break that. One of the next attempts is going to be Diamond Valley in Nevada. Yeah, this vehicle looks like a jet fighter to me. Looks like an F-16 with some little wheels mounted on the back end of it. It looks like an F-16. I'm not sure what this thing is. Maybe the side view of it here, it's hard to see if it's got the stubby wings of an F-15. No, it's got the tail fin of a jet fighter. It's got the configuration overall of a jet fighter. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I'm not so sure I want to do that. I've done some scary, exciting things in my life, but going the speed of the sound, 10 feet above the ground, has never been in the interest that I've held. They probably have an ejection seat built into this thing that would safely eject the driver if things went wrong. Pretty incredible. Now the article says here that the speed limit sets the speed limit of 1,500 miles per hour. What little bit of reading I did in the article, they didn't mention going that fast. They are hoping to hit the 1,000 mile mark. It says, I think there may have been a mistake in where the decimal point was. Well, it does say in the article that they promised the Bureau of Land Management, who apparently has control of this property, that they would not go faster than 1,500 miles an hour in their vehicle. Well, it's apparently if they can go 763 miles an hour, it's less than 300 miles an hour to get to 1,000 miles an hour. Breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. If these guys want to do that, God bless them. It's a very dangerous activity, in my opinion, and I'm not sure what the payoff is. Well, getting back to my website and the field training exercise USS Liberty, December 31st, 2018. I want to encourage people to get ready. That's the whole purpose of this exercise. I'm not setting a date for anything to happen. I'm giving a date for people to get prepared for an event of their own choosing. Now, my advice is I list here 4 things. Number 1, get your spiritual house in order. Very, very important, not optional. Number 2, acquire the skills that you will need. Number 3, establish and work with your team. And number 4, establish your quote-unquote safe haven. Very important. Below that, I encourage people to get yourself a spiral notebook, make a master list of all the goals, dedicate 1 page for each goal, and then incrementally check off each goal from your master list as you move forward. That's what I did in preparation for Y2K. I still have the notebook. I look at it occasionally. Maybe once a year I'll pull it out just to refresh my memory about all the things we did 18 years ago, 19 years ago. Here's our break. Call number is 800-313-9443.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our Energy Cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the Energy Cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 3rd day of November. People tell me there's a lot at my website, and there is. There's a lot there. And of course, I've had this website for quite a few years. My webmaster, Tim Spencer, worked with me to get these things posted. I had good news yesterday from Amazon. they had a change in their policies about associate selling, and I got clarification that everything I've got is still good to go under John's survival and tactical gear. If you got a few minutes and you're interested in the kind of things that John Moore would have in a yard sale if he had one, a lot of those things would be listed there for sale under John's survival and tactical gear. The things that I actually do own and things that I would own if I could. All listed there under John's survival and tactical gear. That section still needs some work. We need to consolidate, have all the things that are similar listed together. All the boots should be together. All the optics should be together, and so forth, to make it easier for people to find stuff. And that hasn't happened yet. I look forward to having that happen so people can more easily find the things that they need. It's a fun section. And of course, also my website are energy cleaners. No apologies. I sell energy cleaners. I've sold more energy cleaners than anybody that works with Tom Berryhill, the manufacturer. A healing device, a marvelous healing device. If you have arthritis pain, it will probably help. Joint pain, it will help. Back pain, same thing. Not getting a great night's sleep, what are you waiting for? Sleep is not optional, is it? I don't believe so. Only $285 shipping included to American zip codes. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's my personal guarantee to you, 30-day money-back guarantee. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads that go with the energy cleaner. It's a great combination. They're very comfortable. They're washable. I think you'll really like them. All the details are at my website. You can place your order right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. I do take PayPal. I really like PayPal. I use PayPal all the time myself. It's the most secure way to make any payment online. And with PayPal, you can now make payments if you live in the USA. And you'd spread that dollar amount out among a few months. Toll-free our line. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, the order line for energy cleaners and mattress pads, 800-592-9543. We open lines here at Republic Broadcasting. Call number is 800-313-9443. I did my first paid professional preparedness consultation 40 years ago, the summer of 1977, 40 years ago. A couple flew their airplane, their airplane. They didn't fly commercial. They flew their airplane from Nevada to where I was there in the Farmington, Missouri area. And we used a conference room in a law firm that I was doing some work with at the time. And we did a consultation that took all morning. They got a lot out of it. I got a lot out of it. And that was my first consultation. I'm still doing them. If you go to my website, you can see there on the right side where it says professional consultations and keynote presentations. This past weekend, I was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, doing a preparedness seminar that my sponsor had paid for to bring me down there. My sponsor is now talking about having me down to Hattiesburg again in the not too distant future to do another presentation. If you'd like me to come to your community and do a presentation for your friends and family, your church, your community, the public, I'd be glad to do so. The details are right there under professional consultations and keynote presentations, or just a private consultation for your family. It doesn't have to be a public matter. It can be a private consultation. I do those. All the details are right there at my website at thelibertyman.com under professional consultations and keynote presentations. As most of you know, I was in Prague, Czech Republic this past summer. I was awarded the Prague Peace Prize for my work. Most of that was based on my DVD titled Global Warming, What the Government Isn't Telling You, a 2-DVD set for sale at my website. You scroll down pretty far down the right side to get to that section where it says John's videos. just above, a little bit above the rocket stove for sale. I need to get Sky Huddleston on here to talk about the rocket stove. It's getting to be that time of year, isn't it? Now that's a special product. You can find a number of rocket stoves for sale on the internet, and I'm sure they're good units on one hand. On the other, none of them do what Sky's does. His rocket stove, you can use your choice of either wood pellets or just plain old sticks and twigs. There's no place to put firewood in there in the normal sense of the word, because the firebox is about as big as 4 packs of cigarettes. Not 4 cartons, 4 packs of cigarettes. That's about the size of the firebox. So you can put little sticks and twigs in there and really generate a lot of heat. Or you can use the wood pellets and set it up to burn overnight. And it'll go for 8 to 10 hours with that load of wood pellets and that hopper that goes with the rocket stove. But my DVD, Global Warming, What the Government Isn't Telling You, is for sale there under John's videos at my website at thelibertyman.com. You need to check that out. You really do. I shipped one yesterday. I'm shipping another one today. I had lunch with a friend. He's visiting from Germany yesterday. He bought 2 of them from me at lunch. I've shipped these all over the planet, literally all over the planet. Now, the first disc has been copyright violated, and it's on YouTube. It's no secret. I don't believe the second disc has yet. And with YouTube taking away the money incentive to do that kind of thing, there's been a dramatic decrease in copyright violations. And people can't figure out how to make any money on it. Why do that, right? So, another project at my website, and this is a project that involves all you listeners out there. Our most recent, this project involves movies and TV shows, primarily movies and TV shows, that have images of continents with new coastlines. I had an inkling, I had an idea that when one of my listeners found that image in the TV show Highway Patrol this past January, I had an idea that if it's in one movie, it's going to be in 20. If it's in 20, it's going to be in 40. That's turning out to be the case. It really is. Now, the first image was about 3 years ago. One of my listeners found these images in the 1972 movie Godfather. Then the next image, we went for 2.5 years or so, almost 3 years without any new movies. But when my listener found Highway Patrol, one of the episodes had this image. That was off to the races. That changed everything. That's when I started encouraging people to be looking for these images. If you find one yourself on a movie or TV show, get that screen capture to me. And as a thank you, you get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs. And it's been a lot of fun. There's a serious aspect of this, though. These images are there for a reason. When it comes to especially modern films, which cost tens of millions of dollars to produce, nothing's in there by accident. Now, these modern films I'm talking about here's obviously the Vatican, which was hugely successful, a trilogy of 3 films. We've got Superman, Hunger Games, A Beautiful Mind, Superman Returns, the TV series NCIS, hugely popular, massively popular, and others. The list continues to grow. The most recent one we have posted is a science fiction film from 1957 titled The Night the Earth Exploded. It's a B-grade science fiction film, and it's absolutely clearly, the Navy map that they've got there on the wall behind this actor. Now, nothing's left to chance in these major Hollywood productions. Now, The Night the Earth Exploded was a B-grade science fiction film. It didn't spend tens of millions of dollars on that. It had a relatively small budget, even for that point in time. But the image is there nonetheless. Here's what I tell people. From the moment that doctor held you upside down and smacked your bare butt when you were born, everything you've seen, heard, tasted, or touched is part of your subconscious. Everything. It's still there. You may not have a conscious memory of it, but it is part of your subconscious, including all these films. Films that I would not be a flippant statement to say between these films and TV shows that hundreds of millions of people have seen these films and TV shows. Can you call yourself an American and not have seen the Godfather trilogy, at least one of the three? Hunger Games, NCIS. Seriously. They picked the winners. Now, some of these earlier films were not winners. I mean, whoever heard of the film The Night the Earth Exploded? Come on, give me a break. But these other films and TV shows, they're winners. That literally, over the past 60 years, we had an explosion beginning in 1957, apparently, because we've now got 2 movies and a TV show that all date 1957. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions of Americans have seen these TV shows and movies. And these memories of seeing these maps, which they weren't conscious of because they're in the background, typically. They're in the background. They play no role whatsoever in the topic of the film itself or the TV show, but they're there, and they're in your subconscious. When the violent earth changes kick in, and these things are really happening, there's going to be a remembrance in your subconscious of these maps. That's what's going to be there. I'm not sure exactly what the psychological impact of that is. I'm not a psychologist, don't pretend to be. I know there is an impact. I know it is important. If it wasn't important, why would they go to the trouble of having these maps in these films and TV shows? Of course it's important. And there's powerful men and women behind this. It comes these major film productions out of Hollywood. Nothing is on that screen without design and intent. Nothing. Now, I recall as a boy seeing B-grade westerns where there'd be a contrail from a jet in the background. But when it comes to these modern major motion pictures, nothing is left to chance. Every scene, every frame of that scene is carefully edited and carefully gone over to make sure that everything's in there that they want to be in there and nothing's in there that they don't want to be in there. That's the way it's done. Now, Rick, you hear Rick call in. Rick, if you're listening, good morning. Rick is making a collage of these maps. It's costing him a little bit of money. The collage is going to go on the wall of his garage. I expect to get a photograph of that collage, a collage of these maps of showing continents with the new coastlines that are posted at my website. And he just found out yesterday he's making another one from this 1957 movie, The Night the Earth Exploded. I only watched the first few minutes of it. I may get some discretionary time to look at the whole thing. Because a map appeared in the first two minutes of the film. The map bounced up there. And so anyway, I hope to, or actually I'm thinking about a different film. There was another related film. We have not got the image posted yet. And we hope to do that soon. It's a similar film. If you have discretionary time to watch films and TV shows, well, keep a sharp eye out. You need to do that. Keep a sharp eye out for maps of continents with new coastlines. want to keep expanding this list. My friend Professor McCanney says we need to be looking at films, especially science fiction from the 30s and 40s. You don't find many talkies before 1936. That was pretty much the year that the talkies really burst into the scene. So it's something that people can do that they do anyway. I'm not asking you to do something you don't already do. We have a lot of people who have the hobby of watching films and movies from the 30s, 40s, and 50s and 60s. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a fine hobby. Doesn't cost you anything. And it's an interesting look at the way life was in the 50s, the way life was in the 40s and in the 30s, the culture, the attire people wore, the vehicles they drove, the lifestyle they had. And people look at that and they think, boy, that's make-believe. No, it's not. Women in the 50s, my mother was one of them, when she would go grocery shopping, she wore a dress, a hat, and gloves in the early 50s. I'm serious. Just to go grocery shopping, she wore a hat, a dress, and gloves. That's the way it was. When I was in high school, public high school, a little country public high school, my graduating class of 100 students at Herculaneum High School, all the men instructors, including the coaches and the shop teacher, all had to wear a dress shirt and tie. And all the female instructors had to wear a dress. There was no exceptions. No exceptions. Now, if it got to be really cold, ice storm and snowstorm, the female students and the female instructors could wear women's slacks to school, but once they got to school, they had to change to a dress. That was the rule. No exceptions. That was public high school. Now, on Fridays, football team, we all were mandated to wear a coat and tie to school on game day. That's the way it was. Here's our break. Call numbers 800-313-9443. Day of November. I recall I had the opportunity to see wanted posters for the most dangerous and violent criminals in the 1930s. And you know the names, Al Capone, John Dillinger, Babyface Nelson, things like, I don't know, I'm not sure there was ever wanted posters for Capone, there may have been. And here's what I found so ironic about these wanted posters, FBI wanted posters. The most violent and dangerous criminals in the 1930s were all wearing coats and ties. They were, seriously. And their mugshots, they're all wearing coats and ties. Something my generation knows, and many have forgotten, baby boomers, is that T-shirts are underwear. Almost nobody wore T-shirts to school when I was in high school. There was a few, and it was a country high school, and there was a lot of guys that wore blue jeans to school. I never wore blue jeans to school, and T-shirts. That was acceptable within the dress code. But I always wore trousers and a shirt with a collar, and I generally, even today, I almost never go out in public wearing a T-shirt as an outer garment. It's underwear. I may make a quick trip to the hardware store if I'm busy doing work. I may make a quick trip to the hardware store wearing a T-shirt as an outer garment. But I regard it as a decline in civility myself, that men and women both wear T-shirts as outer garments. I know it's accepted as being okay in today's society. It's not for me, but if you want to do that, God bless you. It's a free country. At least the last time I checked, you can still wear a T-shirt as not a garment if you chose to do so. I don't. But I regard it as a decline in our civilization to see people wearing pajamas in public. I see that, and I just shake my head. Men and women, these are adults going out in public wearing pajama bottoms as an acceptable form of garment in public. Yeah, right. What kind of, I mean, they're obviously not employed, not in any normal sense of the word. I don't believe employers will, there may be, I need to take that back. There probably are places of employment that allow employees to show up wearing pajama bottoms as a acceptable garment for their employees. I don't know if those places exist, but I'm smart enough to know that they probably do exist, especially in places like California and New York, Washington State, Oregon, the left coast. There probably are places like that. If you're self-employed, obviously. I mean, you dress, you retire any way you want to. Nothing I'm going to do is going to change it. Nothing you're going to do is going to change it. It's just simply the way the world is. Great week. Had fun. Be back next Monday. In the meantime, get your medical supplies, your energy cleaner, your essential oils now while you can. Your firearms and ammunition. Never, ever give up your guns. Please do have a fun, safe, productive day and weekend. And God bless America.